When a car brand dies, it usually sneaks out the back with one last machine rolling into the light. Sometimes loud, sometimes almost unnoticed. Those final cars are more than metal. They're a brand's last heartbeat. Here are the exit vehicles that close the books. Packard Patrician, 1958. Once the mark of presidents and penthouse valets, Packard's swan song was basically a dressed-up Studebaker. By 1958, the real Packard tooling was gone. South End wrapped a Studebaker platform in Packard finery and called it the Patrician. Under the hood, a 289 V8 pushing about 225 horsepower. Adequate, but towing the weight of a lost reputation. Only 2,622 were made. When the last two-tone Patrician walked off the line, there were no banners. Just workers clocking out. Pride, not engineering, had finished them. Studebaker Cruiser, 1966. Forget the Avanti as the finale. The last Studebaker to leave a factory was a burgundy 1966 Cruiser with a black vinyl roof, assembled March 17, 1966 in Hamilton, Ontario. With tired tooling and scavenged parts bins, Studebaker was using a Chevy 283. Reliable, yes, but a concession. The factory ran on skeleton crews, mixing whatever parts would fit. After 114 years of wagons and cars, the final Cruiser pulled away while a town lost hundreds of jobs. Nash Metropolitan, 1962. Nash disappeared into AMC in the 50s, but the Metropolitan outlived its parent by years. A British-built, candy-colored compact assembled in Birmingham. The last Met's tiny 1.5-liter Austin engine made about 52 horsepower. Cute, clever, and ahead of its time in unibody construction. It's the kind of small, oddball car that quietly represents more than a brand's end, a different idea that never scaled. Hudson Hornet, 1957. The Hudson that once terrorized stock car tracks ended as a rebadged Nash with tail fins. The 1957 Hornet looked the part, but not the spirit. Two-tone paint and chrome replaced the old Hudson character. Today, those step-down monsters are worth a fortune. The final Hornets are a reminder of how corporate slide rules and mergers can erase a racing legend. Kaiser Manhattan. 1955 Kaiser's last U.S. model was oddly promising. A supercharged 6 wraparound glass, early air conditioning, and a padded dash that cared about safety. Yet a massive plant and thin sales meant the math never worked. Around 1/300 Manhattans left the line in 1955 before Kaiser folded its U.S. operations and moved on. Innovation didn't fail them. Scale and dealers did. Edsel Corsair, 1959. Edsel tried to be bold on Ford bones. Flashy styling, a 332 V8, and gimmicky controls. Sales crashed instead of soaring. The literal last Edsel, a 1960 Ranger convertible, was quietly finished in November 1959. From a hoped-for 200,000 cars to under 50,000, Edsel's death is a textbook of marketing misread and bad timing. Ironically, scarcity made the remaining cars desirable. Dodge Adventurer, 1961. By 1961, the Adventurer, once Dodge's halo, was a casualty of corporate overlap. The last two-door Adventurer, plum and white, with a 361 V8 and comfort options, rolled off the assembly line in late 1960. Only a few thousand wore 1961 badges before the model disappeared. The final example ended up in an executive's garage, and later a collector's shrine, a polished headstone for a brand lost to positioning, not product. Pontiac G6, 2010. Pontiac's swan song was muted. As GM reorganized, the last Pontiac built was a white 2010 G6 on November 25, 2009. Competent, ordinary, and painfully sensible compared to the brand's muscle car myth. It went to the GM Heritage Center, a tidy end for a mark that once traded on performance and attitude. Hummer H3T, 2010. When fuel prices flipped public opinion, Hummer went from icon to anachronism. GM tried to sell the brand, but a deal never happened. The final Hummer off the line was a black H3T crew cab pickup, real off-road capability, a 3.7-liter 5-cylinder, lockers and all, leaving Shreveport on May 24, 2010. A true truck for the wrong era. Oldsmobile Alero, 2004. GM announced Olds' closure in 2000 and slowly wound the brand down. The last Oldsmobile, a dark cherry 2004 Alero, rolled out April 29, 2004 with worker signatures hidden under trim. A century ended not with a bang, but with a quiet, competent compact that carried an entire identity into retirement. Saab, 9-5, 2011. Swedish stubbornness met supplier failures and ownership chaos. The last Saab, a 2011 9-5, was left frozen as bankruptcy halted production. Turbocharged, quirky, and full of the little technologies Saab fans loved, it now sits as a shrine to could-have-beens. Brilliant engineering without the cash to survive. Scion FRS TC 2016. Scion was Toyota's youth experiment. Simple, cheap, fun. The FRS, co-developed with Subaru, proved the fun part, but it didn't fit the Scion image. Toyota folded Scion back in 2016. The FRS lived on as the Toyota 86. Lesson? Young buyers want cars, not corporate sub-brands. Holden Commodore, 2017 and 2020. Australia's V8 heartbeat ended when the last locally built Commodore, a 2017 SSV, redlined with an LS3 V8, left the Elizabeth plant in smoke and defiance. Holden limped on as an importer until GM finally retired the badge entirely in 2020. When a country stops making its own cars, it's more than a factory closing. It's a culture changing gears. Chrysler 300, 2025. The end of an era? The last of the big American swagger sedans may be the Chrysler 300. 2 decades on the same platform, still offering Hemi power and rear drive presence. If the final 300 leaves a plant in 2025, it might take the last slice of old school American sedan sedan swagger with it. Fisker Karma Ocean 2012-2024. Henrik Fisker has tried to resurrect the dream multiple times. The original Karma vanished after a small run. Fisker Inc.'s Ocean EV lasted until a chaotic 2024 collapse. The last Blue Ocean sits in limbo, a symbol of ambition, dysfunctional finances, and the fine line between visionary and vapor. CA770, 1981. China's political limo, the CA770, stopped real production around 1981. Hand-built like a 1950s Imperial with suicide doors, Chrysler pattern V8s, and literal red flags on the fenders. The original CA770 now rests in museums, a political artifact rather than a consumer car. The name has been revived and shelved across decades as policy and pride require.